How is everybody doing? Welcome back to another live stream on the channel. We have a lot to discuss tonight in this live stream. I believe there is a major trap ahead for cryptocurrency investors, and I'm going to be telling you exactly what I believe that trap is, when I believe it's going to happen, and where I believe the crypto market could go during that major trap. But guys, how's everyone doing? Welcome to the live stream. Please hit the likes on the stream as you join. We have a lot to get into because, man, the markets recently have been very indecisive. We had a really bullish day yesterday, one of the most green days we've seen in a while. Loads of cryptos in the top 100 were up 20%, 25%. Bitcoin was up about 10%. Ethereum was up even more than that, I believe. But today we're seeing a bit of a pullback, which, look, is expected after a major move up. But maybe we're pulling back a little bit more than some people would have hoped. But we're going to get into it. I'm going to talk about the major trap that I believe will face the crypto market, most likely in the coming weeks. It could be any weekend now, in my opinion. But yeah, let's get into it. Smash the likes up on the stream. Glad to see so many of you guys in the stream today. Hope everyone's having a great Thursday. But what do I believe the major trap is? I believe that a geopolitical trap is coming to the market. I believe that geopolitical risk is heightened at the moment, and I think something will happen, okay, regarding the US and Iran. I believe something will happen, and it's going to spook markets, and it's going to drop markets, potentially more than what some people think. A lot of people are looking at this Iran, US situation, and they're thinking that it's just a very small regional conflict. It's not going to impact the markets at all. I believe it will impact the markets. It will spook the markets when it happens, but I think it will be quite short-lived, as pretty much 99% of conflicts are when it comes to the market reaction. Typically, you have a very big drop, followed by a recovery as people realize to accept the new normal, if it is a prolonged war, and they accept that, wars are obviously bad on a humanitarian basis, but for markets, they're not necessarily as bad as some people think, okay? In reality, they can sometimes boost production, they can increase inflation, money printing can occur as a result of it, which can boost asset prices. So I think what's going to happen is you're going to see an instant spike in oil, an instant spike in gold, an instant spike in silver, and it could in fact mark the top for some of the precious metals, at least a local top. And I believe Bitcoin will most likely go and put in one more new low if this happens, okay? And what am I talking about? I'm talking about a US strike on Iran. I believe that it will happen. Polymarket is also giving it a fairly high probability. You've got around a 71% chance of a strike before June 30th and a 62% chance of a strike before March 31st. Though the chances of a strike imminently are obviously decreasing, okay? And this is because of talks which are ongoing at the moment between the US and Iran. They're talking, trying to get some form of resolution, but I honestly believe that the decision's been made. They are going to strike, and it's just a matter of time, in my opinion, until that happens. They can have discussions, they can have meetings, they can have all of this, but I believe at some point in the next few months, there is going to be a strike, and it is going to bring down prices of risk on assets, and it will spike the prices of oil, the prices of gold, the prices of other hedges to risk on markets. So the reason I'm mentioning this is to try and prepare people, because if you do see a strike, don't be surprised if Bitcoin does go and put in a new low, if altcoins do go and put in new lows, and that potentially will mark the bottom, in my opinion. Because I've said before, and I'll say it again, I don't see Bitcoin going that much lower than it's already gone already. I don't see it going that much lower. Could we go down to 55K? Could we go down to 53K? Absolutely. There's a lot of support in the $50,000 plus region for Bitcoin. You have the entirety of 2024 where we essentially traded sideways that whole time and had major support in the low 50s. So it would be a surprise to me if we were to smash right below 50K. It would be a surprise, okay? It wouldn't be a massive shock, but it would be a surprise if we were to go below $50,000. In order to go below $50,000, I believe you need a major black swan event. You need a major crypto exchange going bankrupt. You need a major stablecoin to depeg. You need, a nuke dropped. You need something serious. You need a pandemic. I don't believe we're going to go significantly below the 2024 lows unless something out of the ordinary happens. And look, the way the world is nowadays, it seems like anything can happen. Seems like there's a black swan every year, pretty much. But you would need another 1010, another Terra Luna, another FTX, another COVID. You would need something like that to bring us lower. And that is not impossible by any means, because these things happen quite frequently if you think about it. Pretty much every year there is a major black swan event. So we're going to discuss the market. We're going to discuss where we could potentially go if this situation does worsen. And we're going to get a little bit more in depth with some of the details about this situation, because there are things that Iran can do which could significantly hinder the US. Obviously, if there's an out-and-out war, we all know who's going to win. But Iran are not Venezuela. They do have some capabilities to cause some damage to the US, or at least some disruption or some inconvenience. Venezuela can't do that. Iran can do that, okay? The Strait of Hormuz can be closed. That would significantly hinder the US economy. That would significantly spike the oil prices. And not to mention, the US does have, I believe, somewhere around 30 to 40,000 US soldiers stationed within the Middle East, which Iran could strike using drones and things like that. They did that last year. They also did that when Qasem Soleimani was killed by the US under Trump as well. So they do have capabilities to cause some disruption. I personally believe the last thing they did last year, where they sent those drones, that was all just showmanship. That was not expressing their actual capability. I think that was actually them trying to cause minimal damage because they didn't want to escalate at that point. But if the regime fears that they are under threat, I believe they can use some capacity which could cause a little shock to the market. I'm not saying we're going to 30K or 40K, but I believe if things do start to unwind, it could be enough to bring us at least around the 200-week moving average, around the golden pocket, or maybe even lower. I'll show you exactly those levels that I'm talking about in a moment, but you can see here on Polymarket, there is a 71% chance of a strike by the US or Israel by June 30th. There is a 62% chance of a strike by March 31st. And we know that Trump usually likes to do these types of things on the weekend. Sometimes even on a Monday morning, these types of things can happen. So if I was a betting man, I would bet that it would either be on a Sunday or a Monday at nighttime. So it's just something to be aware of. That's all I'm saying. I'm not trying to FUD. I've said before, I'm about 70 to 80% in the market right now. 20 to 25% stables, which I will deploy when this happens, or if it happens. I believe strongly that it will, but it might not. I might be wrong, and it doesn't happen, and it's a nothing burger, and we don't even dump if it happens. But I personally believe the perfect setup for one more low is occurring here. One more low, and then we're going to go to Valhalla, in my opinion. We're going to go to crazy levels in the next year or two that people can't even imagine, and people aren't even ready for that discussion. They're not even ready for me to talk about this, because I'll get all those comments saying, moon boy, moon boy. Look, I'm not a moon boy. I will be a moon boy quite soon, but I'm not a moon boy. I'm a realist. I'm a realist. I've always been a realist. I said Bitcoin would top somewhere around 117 to 130K. I was dead right in the middle. And now I'm saying that we're going to make one more low, and then we're going to go to Valhalla in the next 2 years. I believe we're going to go to freaking 200, 300, 400K in the next few years. I'm super, super, super bullish for the end of this decade. Now, that might sound like a long way away, but we're 2026. If you think about it, 2027, 2028, those years are going to be insane for me. I think the back end of this year could actually be good. Everyone's so convinced it's going to be a Q4 bottom. But I'm not in that camp. I'm not super, super convinced that it's going to be a Q4 bottom. To me, the signals that we've already done 80 or 90% of a bear market already. And we'll discuss that a little bit later on in the stream as well. But this is in from an account called Walter Bloomberg that I do give some credibility to. This guy's generally very fast, very spot on with his analysis. And he says that Trump's Iran strike is supposed to be symbolic. So Trump doesn't necessarily want to get into a full-scale war, according to this guy. But they do plan to potentially strike the nuclear facilities, or the supposed nuclear facilities of Iran. And then hope that from that point, Iran can then make a deal. So you smash them, and then you come to the table again. You put them in a weakened state, and then you come to the table and hope that you can get a deal that time. But obviously, Iranians are saying that if Trump does strike, this time around, they're going to actually be a lot more harsh with the response. And it's not just going to be a tamed response. They will potentially close the Strait of Hormuz, causing major economic damage, and they may genuinely try and attack US bases rather than just a little staged bit of posturing. This is also just in, very recently, White House envoy Kushner and Witkoff were disappointed by what they had heard from Iranian officials in the morning negotiations. The evening session is still ongoing, according to Axios. So they're trying to negotiate all of this out right now, but it just seems like it's not really moving forward to me. And it seems to me like there is going to be another move down. I believe there's going to be one more move down, one more flush out. I'm not betting on this, like by saying that I'm all in stables because of it. I'm not betting on any prediction markets or anything. I'm just saying I believe there'll be one more move down. I don't think it will be that much lower, but I'm still about 20 to 25% in stables because I do believe that there's going to be another move down, and when that happens, I'll deploy the rest of my bag. I'll deploy all of my stables if that happens. If we get one more move down, if we go down to 55, 53k, the remaining 20 or 25% of my portfolio will be fully deployed into the market. Fully deployed. No questions asked. Fully deployed. And from that point, I would be heavily optimistic about the next year or two. Super optimistic. If we make one more move down, we go to around the 200 weekly moving average, we go to that major golden pocket level, then not only do we hit the golden pocket and hit the 200 week, two major levels, but we will also most likely create a bullish divergence on the daily RSI, which would be also very bullish if we do that, right? You would create a bullish div. Typically, they lead to more of a sustained rally. So I think one more move down, followed by multiple months of upside is the base case at the moment. And in terms of the altcoins I'd be stacking when we go lower, they are as follows. Solana, Sui, Casper Tau, Say, Asta, and Plasma XPL. And then, of course, the VIP gem, which you can gain access to if you become a member over on WAP. There is a link down below to my VIP membership. Highly recommend you guys join. I'm in there every single day. We do voice chats pretty much every single day. I think we've done a voice chat every single weekday now for weeks and weeks and weeks. We've had an insane streak of voice chats. And I highly recommend you join because you can ask me questions on the voice chat. It's a lot better, you know, talking to you guys. I mean, it's not in person, but it almost feels like it's in person. You know, I'm much more of a guy who likes to talk using the voice rather than text. There are obviously text channels there as well, but I'm really a person who likes to speak to people. And that's why sometimes I literally spend half a day just in the voice chat, talking to members, debating topics as well. It's not always just an echo chamber of agreement. In fact, it's the contrary of that. It's not an echo chamber at all. You know, most of these crypto groups out there, they're just complete echo chambers, complete dictatorships. The leader of the group just says what he thinks, and then everyone else has to abide by it. And you can't ask questions, you can't disagree. It's just a complete totalitarian crypto group. My group is not like that. There is genuine discourse, genuine discussion, and that's why it's the best group. Every single person who's ever joined the group has said that it's the best. Everyone. I've never had a single person join the group and say otherwise. And that's all to do with the community and the way that I've structured it, the way that I've built it. And of course, I am looking to buy some new cryptos in the coming weeks, especially if we have that one more move down. I've got about 7, maybe 8 projects on my radar. I'm probably going to pick 2 or 3 of them and add them to my portfolio. And when I do that, the members will be notified instantly. They'll be told the exact percentage of my portfolio I'm allocating into those projects and the levels in which I'm buying them. So really, I'm doing a lot of the hard work for you, right? And yeah, we did tremendously well in the last bull run. Walked away with great profits, great gains on many projects, 10x in 10 days on Avantis, 24x on Troll. We bought Sui at 70 cents, rode it up to $5. We bought Casper at 3 cents, rode it up to 20 cents. So we made gains across the board. Bitcoin had an average buy of 15,900. I was selling around 117K. 120K, 100K. I was selling Bitcoin in the hundreds and I bought it at 15. So we had a tremendous amount of success. Could have been better, don't get me wrong. There was areas for improvement. And maybe people didn't make as much money as they expected. People thought they were going to make 100x's, and that wasn't to be. But we still made incredible gains. And the reality is 99% of people in 2025 lost money. 99% of crypto retail investors in 2025 lost money. The vast majority of people who invested in this market got rinsed, whether it was with Trump coin, whether it was with, buying tops on XRP, whatever it was, retail got wrecked this bull run. So if you at least walked away with a 2x, a 5x, a 10x, you did amazing. You did absolutely amazing. If you walked away from last bull run with somewhere between a 2 to a 10x, you're probably going to walk away with a 50x in the next bull run. Because I believe the next bull run will be truly euphoric. It will be parabolic, and we will see retail come back. We just didn't have the right situation going on macroeconomically in 2025 to warrant that. But I believe in the next couple of years, we will see that as we get that final risk-on run within the macro cycle. I'm talking about 20-year cycle, 18-year cycle. I believe that is coming to an end in the next couple of years, and that will be followed by catastrophe. That will be followed by recession, probably world war, but I do believe that is still a little bit further to go, and we're not there just yet. But guys, appreciate everyone being on the live stream. Get your questions in the chat as well, by the way. I want to see what everyone's thinking about the markets. I will get into your questions very shortly. But yeah, if we do make that move lower, I am expecting the move to be around the mid to low 50s. And that, in my view, could potentially mark the bottom. I think there's a solid chance that a US strike on Iran, followed by the response from Iran, could mark the bottom. And I'm expecting that most likely some point in March. I'm expecting that. And as much as they're trying to make out that maybe there's constructive talks going on and all of this, I personally believe that the decision's been made, truthfully. I think the decision's been made, and we're going to see what happens in the coming weeks. I'm curious why you're investing in Bitcoin and Solana and not Ethereum. Well, I like Ethereum, but I like Solana better. And Bitcoin you can't compare to any of those. Chirp says it's the best group for sure. Bundle member here. Yeah, great to see you in the stream, Chirp. And yeah, the bundle's definitely worth it. The great thing about the bundle is you get the course included as well. You get the full Navigating 2026 course. That's my full strategic blueprint to 2026. Spent weeks and weeks and weeks planning this with Cryptex. And yeah, I'm very, very proud of it. I think we've done a tremendous job. Yusuf says, I'm buying Solana now. Did you see the Solana BTC chart? So, I do check the BTC pairs, but I put more emphasis on the USD pairs, right? But, let's take a look at the Sol BTC chart since you mentioned it. Let's see what's going on here. So, kind of in no man's land. Depending on where you pull the fibs, it's kind of in no man's land. But in terms of support, I guess you've got potential support in this region here, right? You got a few highs. So yeah, Sol BTC looks okay. I personally just think Sol is getting very cheap. Could it go lower? Absolutely. But I'm just going to average in. You know, people get so obsessed with trying to time the exact bottom, and that just leads to people completely missing it. And then, essentially, FOMOing back in at a later date. That's what seems to always happen. You know, I've seen so many people obsess over a bottom and try and get the exact low. And one of the other problems they do is they keep moving the goalpost further. So they say, actually, I'll buy Bitcoin whenever it goes back to 74K. Then 74K comes, they don't buy. Then they say, I'll buy Bitcoin when it goes to the previous all-time high, 2021's high. Goes to 69K, they don't buy. Then they say, oh, but the real high, that was in April 2021, so I'll buy at 64K. Then they don't buy at 64K. And they keep on pushing the goalpost further, and then the bottom actually happens and they don't buy because they keep moving it lower and lower and lower. And that's what happens to 90% of investors. What you have to do is look at the chart and assess it on a macro scale. Zoom out. Don't just look at the daily. Don't just look at the 4-hour. Zoom out. Put it on the 2-week. Put it on the weekly. Pull up the 200-week moving average. And that tells you everything you need to know about how cheap Bitcoin is. If Bitcoin is in and around the 200-week moving average, you know that Bitcoin is cheap. It's just a fact. It's not even up for debate. It is a fact. If Bitcoin is around the 200-week moving average, it is cheap. That is how you define a cheap Bitcoin. In and around the 200-week moving average. So what you need to do is just humble yourself, look at the chart, and realize that Bitcoin is cheap. Therefore, I'm going to buy. I'm going to at least get my feet wet. I don't need to go right into the deep end and fully submerge myself in. But I need to at least get my feet wet. I need to at least acquire some Bitcoin. At least acquire some altcoins. Because of the fact that we're very cheap. Or we are cheap. Maybe not very cheap. Very cheap would be below the 200-week moving average. But cheap would be around the 200-week moving average. And I was adamant to you guys that 90K wasn't cheap. 80K wasn't cheap. 70K wasn't cheap. It was only once we went to 60K that I came out and said, I'm bullish, I'm buying, I'm no longer fully in stables, and now I can deem Bitcoin as cheap. Now I can say I'm macro bullish, I'm macro optimistic, whatever you want to call it. I'm optimistic for the next year. I can only say that once we go in and around the 200-week moving average. And so many people, it's so funny, so many people were telling me on my channel, in my Discord, everywhere, they were telling me, you're going to regret being in stables. You better buy the dip at 80K. You better buy the dip at 70K. 69K is the previous all-time high. You better buy the dip there. They kept on telling me, you better buy the dip on all these levels that I knew full well were not a cheap Bitcoin. And now all of a sudden, once we go down in and around the 200 week, we're like $1,000 off, or we were $1,000 off. Now they all of a sudden flip bearish and say, actually, we're going lower. You shouldn't be buying now. It's so ironic. Isn't it so ironic how those individuals who are so adamant that you should be buying up the dips at 80K, and even 90K they were saying you should buy the dip, now all of a sudden they're expecting 30 and 40K. Those are the low IQ individuals who are going to get wrecked in crypto because they never buy, they always move the goalpost, they buy high, and they end up selling low. And there's no hope for those individuals. There's genuinely no hope. There's nothing I can do for them. You know, I try my best with my group to help people in crypto. I try my best with my channel to help people in crypto, educate people. But when someone's mindset is that screwed, there's no hope for them. You might as well quit crypto, go to the S&P 500 and buy it every day, and maybe in 50 years you'll be retired. That's what those people should do, because their mindset is just not ready for crypto. You need to be on a certain frequency, a certain wavelength to operate successfully in crypto. And people who are like that are just not cut out for crypto one bit. So those are my thoughts on that. Exactly, Andrew. Greed works both ways. People get greedy at the tops. They also get very greedy at the bottoms, believe it or not. So I say that myself. Greed works both ways. It's actually greed. Not buying at 60K, not buying at 55K, that is greed. Even if we go lower. You didn't know for a fact that we would go lower, right? You just got lucky, potentially. So even if we go lower, it is greedy to not be buying around the 200-week moving average. You know? It is greedy. Because you're going against the trend. Now, yes, in 2022, we did go a little bit lower than the 200-week, but the 200-week was still a great time to buy. If you bought Bitcoin at the 200-week in 2022, you bought on average at 22K. 22, 21K you bought. You're not complaining about that, right? So it is greed. Nickel and diming about the bottoms, it's greed. Just like the exact same applies. You can reverse it. Just like the people who weren't selling up here, when I was selling, I was telling my members at 117K that I'm selling. I sold a whole chunk of my portfolio and put it all in property. At 117K, I had a macro trend line. I don't know if you guys remember. There was this macro trend line that got hit on the linear chart that I was banging on about every day. That got hit at 117. I sold a whole chunk of my portfolio for property. So the same people who back then were saying to me, no, you shouldn't be selling. We're going way higher. Selling now is stupid. Someone called me a retard. They said selling now is retarded. That's what they said at 117K. It's the same. It's the same. That is greed. Not selling at 117K was greed. Not buying at 59K was greed. In my opinion, in my humble opinion. But let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think, please. I'm very interested in your opinions. We got 210 people watching live on YouTube. Appreciate each and every single one of you being in the stream today. Hit up the likes. Let's try and get up to 300 likes today. It would be amazing if we could smash the record for likes. There's always crashes around blood moons, says the YouTube expert. That is on March 3rd. Yeah, very true. There is actually a strong correlation between blood moons and negative price action. I highly encourage people to just do a little bit of research on the moons. I know it sounds pretty wacky, but there is a strong correlation. It's just something to think about. I'm not saying base your whole strategy around it, but typically blood moons do end up marking bottoms and they do end up being very bearish, right? Zelvesa says, how much of your stables have you deployed into the market? So I've deployed about 77% of my stablecoins into the market. So I have about 23% left over in stables at the minute. 23% or so I have in stables at the minute. Don't go all in. Have a small bag, though. Yeah, I agree. I'm not going all in at the moment, but if we go a little bit lower, then I will go all in. If we go to the 200-week moving average, which is at 58K, pretty much around there, 58, 57, 56, that region, I will be going all in. Now, I want to give a bit of context, because context is important. Context matters in this situation. If we go even deeper, right? If we end up going to $40,000, then I can borrow money to acquire more Bitcoin. Not everyone is in the position to do that effectively, I understand. But if you've got businesses, if you've got lots of property, you can actually leverage your assets to borrow against. You can use your assets as collateral and you can get you can get loans, right? You can basically get a mortgage, 25-year loan on your property. So it's not something I've done before. You know, I'm 21 years old. I'm turning 22 in a few months. So I don't have experience with it. But I know a few people who have done it. And that's one of the benefits of having real estate, right? And having businesses is you can use your assets to acquire more Bitcoin. But I would only do that if we had a very deep bear market. I don't need to do that. You know, if we're in the 50s, I'll just buy with my stablecoins. But if I use my entire stablecoin bag, which I plan to do, and we do end up going down to 40K, that is the point where I start, first of all, selling everything I possibly can. Selling all my jewelry, my watches, anything like that that has any value. I've already just sold my car to deploy into the market. But basically anything. Sell everything. Sell all your personal possessions. Not financial advice. Just saying what I would do. Not financial advice. I'm just telling you what I would do. I would sell everything. Everything possible. Apart from, obviously, property, which I would just borrow against. So in a sense, it's kind of like selling it, right? In a sense. But yeah, honestly, if we did end up going down to 40K, like, at that point, because it's possible. I give it like a 25% chance, maybe 30. It's possible. I'm not ruling it out, but I'm just not having it as a base case. If we do end up going down to 40K, which is my next level, if we end up losing the 200 week and the golden pocket, then I will just sell everything. Like, literally everything to buy into the market. And I think that's the prudent thing to do, actually. Because you can, let's say you've got a few watches, you can always buy triple that when the market pumps back to all-time highs again. So it's all about, you know, long-term reward. Rather than chasing instant gratification, you delay the gratification. You delay the reward. You get those fruits from your labor in a couple of years, which I'm happy to do. But I understand, you know, some people can't just sell everything, but you can downscale. Let's say you've got a Range Rover. You don't need a Range Rover. You can sell that, buy some cheap car to deploy into the market, and then you can buy 3 Range Rovers in a year or 2. That's the mindset I have, at least. I'm pretty extreme, though. I think you have to be pretty extreme to be in my position. I'm definitely not normal. Take extreme risks. What are the key levels for the downside on Bitcoin? So the major level for me is this kind of cluster here. This for me is the major. Let me just do that again. This for me is the major zone, because not only is it the golden pocket, not only is it the 200-week moving average, not only is it the support from 2024 where we went sideways all year, not only is it these two major highs, these two major clusters here of price action, but it is also the support of this major 2-week logarithmic channel that Bitcoin's been in all the way back in since 2017. So there's loads of stuff all pointing to me around the 55K region. 53, 55, somewhere around that region. Everything is pointing to me. And I very much see 40K as the same thing as everyone last cycle saying 13K, saying 10K. You know, the general populace will be wrong on the bottom. I want to make myself crystal clear on that. Whatever the general populace say, whatever the masses say, they'll be wrong most likely on the bottom, because they always are wrong on the tops and the bottoms. The general consensus was 150K Bitcoin as a top. They were wrong. I was saying 117 to 130. I was right. The general consensus is saying 30 to 40k. I'm saying it'll be in the 50s. We will see if I'm right. I might be wrong, and I will be the first person to come onto YouTube and say, look guys, I said the bottom would be in the 50s, it actually turned out to be in the 40s. When we zoom out, it's probably not going to be a big deal. You know, one guy bought Bitcoin at 40k, one guy bought Bitcoin at 50k. Bitcoin goes to 300, who really cares, right? Who really cares? It's just being greedy at that point. I mean, there's not really much difference. But like I said, even if we do go lower, I will buy. I'll just buy through debt as opposed to non-debt. But I'll only buy Bitcoin. If I'm using debt, I would only buy Bitcoin. I would not use debt to buy altcoins. I want to be crystal clear on that. I would not be borrowing money, leveraging properties to buy altcoins. I would only be doing it for Bitcoin. I'd be more of a Michael Saylor than a Tom Lee, personally. Would I consider shorting right now if there's a strong chance that the US has a conflict with Iran? I've thought about it, but I'm not shorting currently. But I have certainly thought about it. The problem is, it might not be for a few weeks. I mean, if you look at this current polymarket betting thing, it's saying that it's probably going to be some point in March. And it's almost definitely going to be by June. Or in June. Or before June 30th. So before July. So it's pretty much certain that it's before July. But it's probable that it's before the end of March. So it could be just any week now, and shorting is a bit... It depends on your leverage, right? But if you're talking about low leverage, then I consider it. If you're talking about high leverage, then I wouldn't. But I think there is a solid chance that we go down, either sweep the lows or make a slight lower low. And I believe that it will almost be a trap. The reason why I called the title a trap is because I believe a lot of people will sell their portfolios on that dump, and they'll get fudded out of their positions, and they'll actually end up buying higher. Because that's, again, what the masses do. They sell during FUD events, whether it's a war, whether it's COVID, whether it's 1010, whether it's whatever, right? They sell at the bottom, and then they end up buying the pump. So there were so many people during 1010 who sold when everything crashed, and then they bought back up when it started pumping again a few days ago, right? We all remember the rally back after 1010. That was just people buying back in who sold. So, yeah, just don't be a normie. That's all I'm saying. Don't be a normie. Don't fall for traps. Focus on the charts, not the noise. I mean, I do spend time and attention on geopolitics and on the Fed and on all these things, but although I spend a lot of energy on it, I acknowledge that it doesn't really change my strategy with the market. My strategy with the market is to focus on the charts and to buy during times of major oversold periods, which I believe we are either at or approaching. In fact, we're at it now. We're at an oversold period here. Could we be a little bit more oversold? Yes, but we are for sure at a major oversold period on Bitcoin. Therefore, I believe it's reasonable to be buying the dips at this point. We were not at a point of being major oversold when we were at 80 or 90k. That I want to clarify. But yeah, I think that about the market and about the Iran situation. And about normies, which most people are, unfortunately. Most people end up selling in the FUD and buying in the euphoria. Well, they sell during the crash and they buy during the comeback rally. And I think there's going to be an awful lot of people who FOMO back into the market around 90k, 100k. You know, if Bitcoin has a major counter trend rally in the coming months, which I believe it will, they will all end up FOMOing back in. All the sideliners and all the people who just sold a few weeks ago. ATM says, are you considering Ondo on your list? So I don't currently have it on my list. But there's a price for everything, right? So even Ondo, something which seems somewhat dead. I mean, it's not dead, but it's just not been doing great. There's a price for it. And I think it's approaching it, to be honest. Around 20 cents, I'd say, is a good buy on Ondo. 19, 20 cents. But I'm just kind of concerned with Ondo, you know. I am kind of concerned. There's a reason it's not in my portfolio or on my watch list. And that's because I do genuinely have some concern about these RWA platforms that have tokens. Because honestly, I think some of these major centralized companies will just do it themselves. They'll just have their own system that they manage, they control. And then that way they're not relying on any other body. They're relying on themselves and their own platform that they've built. So I am slightly concerned about Ondo. But at the same time, even if I have my concerns, there is a price for everything. There is a price for everything. That is a good lesson in investing. Even if you don't like something, like I don't like McDonald's, right? Just don't like it. Haven't eaten at McDonald's in years and years and years and years. Just don't like it. Don't like the processed food. Not a big fan of the taste either, to be honest. I'm not a huge fan of the stock. It's pretty slow to move, bit boring. But if McDonald's crashed 50% next month, I would buy it. You know what I mean? So there's a price for everything. Even if you don't like something, even if you think you've got concerns about something, there is still a price for everything. And I believe Ondo is approaching that point where even if I have genuine concerns, I might still buy it. But guys, I appreciate everyone being in the stream. I want to quickly mention Blowfin. It's the exchange which I personally trade on, and if you use my link in the description and you sign up and you deposit some USDT and you trade on the exchange, you could potentially win major rewards because there is an exclusive campaign in progress under my link. So make sure you use my link, which is in the description, the Blowfin link. Sign up to an account. It supports the channel a lot, helps me continue doing what I'm doing, and encourages me to continue doing what I'm doing. Obviously doing YouTube in a ethical manner. Even if I wasn't making money from Blowfin and from my group, I still wouldn't be doing scam coins and taking backhand deals from memes and shady stuff like that. But obviously it supports the channel. Every YouTuber who's doing crypto is making money somehow, whether it's from an affiliate link, whether it's from their membership, or whether it's from backhand deals to pump and dump meme coins. They are all making money somehow. I believe I'm doing it in the most legitimate way. Most YouTubers are doing it in a very shady way. They're getting backhand money, they're pumping and dumping meme coins with that money, rugging them, all this type of stuff. So, if you want to support the channel, use Blowfin. I use it myself. It's the exchange I personally use, and that's why I'm talking about it. I'm not an employee of them. I haven't signed a contract with them. I just use the exchange, and I happen to have a referral link to it. So check it out. There's a link down below. Like I said, there's rewards if you use it, and I'll be seeing you guys over in the Discord. I'll be in the chats tonight talking to the members about the market. So I'll look forward to seeing you guys over there in the Discord for the VIP and the bundle members. Appreciate everyone tuning in today. Have a great rest of your day.